Hello there, thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's story explores the hidden corners of the human psyche, gentle yet profound. Stay tuned, and don't forget to support the channel so you won't miss the next stories. I knew I messed up the second the words left my mouth, but by then it was already too late. You can't unsay something like that, especially in front of his boss. I'm Lindsay, 31 years old from Fort Worth, Texas, and this is the story of how a dumb joke at a work party turned my marriage upside down. So, last Friday, my husband Darren, he's 38, invited me to his company's end of year work party. To be honest, I wasn't all that excited to go. These corporate events are always awkward, and I never really know what to talk about with his co-workers. But Darren insisted. He said it was important, said it would look good for him if I came along. Fine, I thought, I'll play the supportive wife for one night. I even spent extra time doing my hair and makeup, put on that green dress he likes, and tried to look put together, whatever that means. But as soon as we got there, I knew it was going to be one of those nights where I just had to smile and nod. The first hour was fine. We mingled, did the whole how do you know Darren conversation with his co-workers, and I stayed on my best behavior. I had one drink, then another, and by the time dinner was served, I was actually starting to feel pretty good. Then he showed up, his boss, Mr. Sean, the man Darren constantly complains about at home. He's always on my back, Darren says, never satisfied with anything I do. I had a whole mental picture of this guy being some grumpy, grey-haired micromanager. But nope, Mr. Sean was surprisingly young, maybe late 40s, in a sharp suit, the kind of man who commands a room without even trying. I could see right away why Darren was always so stressed about him. We were all sitting at this big round table, me, Darren, his boss, and a few other co-workers. Everyone was laughing, talking about holiday plans, and somehow the conversation shifted to football. Darren is a die-hard Cowboys fan, lives and breathes it. But Mr. Sean, turns out, he's an Eagles fan. And if you know anything about football, you know Cowboys and Eagles fans don't mix. They were going back and forth, playfully jabbing at each other, but I could tell Darren was getting that look on his face. It's that look he gets when he's losing an argument but doesn't want to admit it. That's when I did it. I leaned forward, grinned, and said, "Well, if you spent as much time at home as you do defending the Cowboys, maybe you'd actually win something for once." The table went quiet.
Even I felt it like the air got sucked out of the room, Mr. Sean let out this loud ha, slapped the table and said, "I like her, she's got a point." But Darren didn't laugh. He didn't even look at me. He just sat back in his chair, eyes locked on the table like he was counting to 10 in his head. I knew I should have stopped there. I knew it, but I didn't. Nope, not me. I had to double down.
Maybe if you put that kind of energy into our finances, we wouldn't be arguing about the cable bill every month. I added with a little snicker, thinking I was being cute. Crickets, his boss just sipped his drink. One of his co-workers gave me that awkward yike smile. I felt a tap under the table, Darren's knee bumping mine. His little shut up signal, I ignored it. "Don't look at me like that," I said, tilting my head at him like he was being dramatic. "I'm just joking, you know I'm joking." "No, Lindsay," he said quietly, voice low but sharp like a blade. "You're doing too much." He went back to eating, chewing like he was grinding rocks between his teeth. Nobody at the table said a word, just for scraping plates. I tried to brush it off like it was no big deal, but inside, I felt it. That gut feeling that I'd pushed too far. The rest of dinner was uncomfortable. Darren barely spoke to me. When he did, it was short, one-word answers like "yeah" and "I'm fine." I should have apologized. I know I should have, but I didn't. I was still in that "I'm right, he's overreacting" mode. But then, after dinner, Mr. Sean brought it up again. Man, Lindsay, you're funny, he said, clapping Darren on the back. She really keeps you on your toes, huh? Darren didn't even fake a laugh, just nodded and said, yep. That's when I knew it wasn't just about the joke. It was about respect, and I had just embarrassed him in front of the one person he'd been trying to impress all year. After dinner, we were all supposed to head to the bar area for drinks. Darren didn't even ask if I wanted to stay. He just grabbed his coat, turned to me, and said, let's go. I smiled at everyone, waved, and said, oh, guess it's my bedtime, huh? Trying to play it off. No one laughed. We didn't speak the whole ride home, not a word. He was driving like he was mad at the gas pedal. Foot heavy, eyes forward, jaw tight. I sat there, scrolling on my phone, pretending I didn't care. But I kept glancing at him from the corner of my eye. When we pulled into the driveway, I tried to break the ice. You're really going to be mad over that? It was just a joke, Darren. He sat there for a second, hands still on the wheel, breathing slow and deep, like he was giving himself one last chance to calm down. Then he turned to me, looked me dead in the eyes and said, now, Lindsay, it's not just the joke, it's you. I'm tired of this. He got out, slammed the door, and walked inside. Didn't wait for me, didn't hold the door open like he usually does. He just left me sitting there. I stayed in the car for a minute, heart racing, half mad, half confused. What did I do wrong? It wasn't that serious. It was just a joke. Men joke with each other like that all the time. Why is it different when I do it? I walked in still defensive, ready to argue. But he wasn't in the living room. He was upstairs. I followed him, still in my heels, calling after him. Darren, seriously, you're really going to act like this? I found him in our bedroom packing a bag. A bag? What are you doing? I asked, hands on my hips. Where are you going? He zipped it up, looked at me, eyes tired, but firm. I'm done, Lindsay. Done with what? I laughed, thinking he was bluffing. Oh, come on. You're not going anywhere over a joke. But he didn't answer. He grabbed his bag, brushed past me, and went downstairs. I followed him, still trying to win the argument. You're being ridiculous, I said, still in that sarcastic tone, arms crossed. I'm not chasing you, Darren. If you want to be stupid, be stupid. He got to the door, looked back at me, and said the words that finally hit me. You never know when to stop, Lindsay. That's the problem. Then he walked out. I stood at the front door for a while, just staring at the empty street. Like he'd turn around any second, I even pulled out my phone, half expecting a come outside text. But nothing, just silence. I shut the door, locking it like that meant something, and leaned against it. Arms crossed, biting the inside of my cheek. He'll be back. He always comes back. We've had arguments worse than this, and he's never left for more than an hour. I went upstairs still in that stupid green dress, heels clicking against the floor, and sat on the edge of the bed. The side of the bed looked so empty. The pillow was still dented from where he'd slept the night before. I stared at it, but instead of feeling sad, I felt annoyed. He's so dramatic. Grabbing my phone, I texted him. Where you at? No response. Okay, so now he wants to play hardball. I set the phone down and got up, walking into the closet, where I saw that space where his bag used to be. He really took his duffel bag like he's going on a trip or something. How ridiculous, my first thought. I should call his mom. Oh yeah, he hates that. He always says I run to his mom like I'm tattling on him. But I didn't do it. I knew if I did, she'd probably side with him. And I wasn't about to hear a lecture tonight, so instead I called my sister, Maya. She answered on the third ring. What's up? I sighed, flopping onto the bed. Darren's being stupid. "Oh, what did you do this time?" she said, laughing a little. "What did I do?" I sat up, offended. "Why do you always assume it's me?" "Because it's usually you, Lindsay," she said bluntly. "What happened?" I told her everything. The party, the joke, the whole scene at the table. I made it sound like it was nothing, of course. Just a little playful back and forth, no big deal. I even threw in a few "he's so sensitive" comments for good measure. "Girl," Maya's voice got real quiet. "You said that in front of his boss." "Yeah, so, it's not like I lied," I shot back, annoyed she wasn't taking my side. "He's always talking about how stressed out he is at work. So maybe if he handled things differently, he wouldn't be so." "Lindsay," Maya cut me off, voice sharper this time. "You disrespected him in front of his boss. Men don't play about that. You made him look small." I sat there, silent for a second. "Okay, but it was just a joke. He's being childish." "Was he laughing?" she asked. "No." "Then it wasn't a joke." Her words hung in the air, heavy. I hate when she says stuff that makes too much sense. I changed the subject. Anyway, he left. Packed a bag and everything. Wait. He left, like, left. "Yep," I said, tossing a pillow across the room. "Acting like he's done or something. I'm not chasing him though. If he wants to throw a fit, that's on him." "Girl, you might want to fix this," she said. "He's not the type to bluff like that. He'll be back," I muttered. But for the first time, I didn't really believe it. That night, I didn't sleep much. Every little sound outside had me checking my phone, thinking it was him. But it wasn't. The hours dragged. Midnight. 1 a.m. 2 a.m., still no texts, no calls. I finally texted him again, something petty because that's what I do. "Oh, so you're just going to ghost me now?" Real mature, Darren, no response. By 3 a.m., I was pacing the house muttering under my breath. Like I was in a full-blown argument with him. Except he wasn't even there. I replayed everything in my head. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But then I'd flip it back. No, he's being soft. He's a grown man. If he can dish it, he can take it. I ended up falling asleep on the couch, waking up to the sound of birds chirping and my phone vibrating on the coffee table. For a second, I thought it was him, but nope, just a message from Maya. "Any word from Darren?" I didn't even answer. I got up, stretched, and checked my phone's call log. No missed calls, no texts. I told myself I wouldn't reach out again. He'll come back. But as the hours passed, that confidence started to crack. By noon, I was standing at the kitchen counter, tapping my nails on the surface, debating whether to call him. I didn't want to. I hate being the one to call first, but that pride. It started to feel real heavy when I noticed. His car wasn't in the driveway. Where did he go? I called. It rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. "Oh, that's what we're doing now," I muttered, shaking my head. Fine. 2 more hours passed. Nothing. I started to wonder if he was staying with one of his friends. My first thought was Brandon, his childhood best friend. But I knew better. Brandon's single, and his house is like a frat house. Darren wouldn't get any peace there. Maybe his brother, Marcus. I called Marcus. "Hey, Lindsay," he answered, sounding casual. "Hey, is Darren with you?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant. "Nope, haven't seen him." "Why?" "Oh, no reason." "Just checking," I lied, chewing on my thumbnail. "You good?" he asked like he knew something was off. Yeah, I'm fine." I hung up before he could ask more questions. At this point, I was starting to feel that panic. Not full-on panic, but that creeping feeling in the back of your mind. When you realize you might have underestimated something. It wasn't until later that night that he finally called. I answered on the first ring, trying to sound like I didn't care. "Wow, finally remembered you have a wife," I said, leaning on the counter with one hand. "Lindsay," he said, voice calm but cold. "We need to talk." "Oh, so now you want to talk? Where were you last night?" "Huh, don't do that," he said, cutting me off. "I'm not playing games with you." "I'm the one playing games," I snapped. "You're the one who stormed out like a teenager." "I stormed out because I'm tired, Lindsay." "Tired of being embarrassed by you?" Silence. "I didn't have a comeback for that one. Look." "I'm not coming back home tonight," he said. "I'm staying at my mom's for a bit. I need space." Space. I laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was more like a defense mechanism. Space for what? "You act like I cheated on you or something." "No, you didn't cheat," he said slowly. "But you break me down like you want me to feel small. I'm not living like that anymore." My chest tightened. "Wow, so now I'm the bad guy," I said, leaning all the way into the victim role. "You're walking away from our marriage because of a joke," he sighed. I could hear him rubbing his face like he always does when he's frustrated. "This isn't just about last night, Lindsay," he said quietly. "It's everything. It's the way you talk to me. It's the way you act like you're always right. I can't win with you. I'm done trying." My heart started pounding. "You're really doing this?" I asked, voice cracking. "You're really throwing away our marriage?" "No, you threw it away," he said, and his words hit harder than I expected. "I'm just walking away from the mess." I heard the click of the call ending before I could respond. I sat there stunned, phone still pressed to my ear like he might come back on the line. He didn't. I sat there for a long time, phone still in my hand, staring at the call-ended screen like it might change. My throat felt tight, but I didn't cry. I don't cry over stuff like this. He'll be back. He always comes back. But as the minutes ticked by, something about this time felt different. I called him back, straight to voicemail. Called again, voicemail. I wasn't about to leave a message. I'm not that desperate. I wasn't about to leave a message. I'm not that desperate. I scrolled to Maya's name, hovered over it. Then changed my mind. I knew what she'd say anyway. She'd hit me with that "well, you did kind of push him too far this time" speech. And I didn't have the energy to hear it, so I sat alone. By the second day, I started feeling that shift in my chest. You know that feeling when you start replaying everything and actually hearing what the other person said. His words echoed in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. "You break me down like you want me to feel small. I'm not living like that anymore. I'm done trying." I hated those words. Because for the first time, I couldn't spin them into something that made me feel better. I couldn't blame him for being too sensitive, or dramatic, or immature. It wasn't him this time, it was me. But even then, I didn't call. My pride wouldn't let me. Instead, I did something worse. I posted on Facebook. Funny how people think they're the victim when they're the problem all along. "Stay gone if you wanna, I'm good over here." I threw in a selfie for good measure. All dolled up like I had somewhere important to be. When in reality, I hadn't left the house in 48 hours. I sat back, watching the comments roll in. "Girl, you deserve better. If he can handle you at your worst, he doesn't deserve you at your best." Exactly the type of energy I wanted, validation on demand. A couple of my friends texted me too, and I ate it up like dessert. Yeah, I'm good, I'm always good. But when the third night hit, that phone sat too quiet. No "where are you?" texts. No missed calls, nothing. It was like I didn't exist. That night, I broke. I found myself staring at our wedding photo on the mantel, just standing there like it was a crime scene. My smile looked worse in the picture now. His eyes looked tired, and I couldn't unsee it. I never noticed it back then. But now it was glaring. Was he tired then, too? I sat on the couch with that old wedding photo in my lap, turning it over in my hands. The back had a date scribbled in Sharpie, April 22nd, 2016. I ran my thumb over it, trying to convince myself that none of this was my fault. I gave him everything, didn't I? I cooked, I cleaned. I stayed when he had nothing, I held it down. But the other voice in my head, the one that didn't need Maya or anybody else to check me, it whispered. You never apologized. I ignored it. Flipped the picture back over and set it down on the coffee table. I didn't owe him an apology. He overreacted. He's a grown man. He could have stayed and talked it out, but he ran like a kid. That's on him. That's what I told myself anyway. But by the fifth night, I knew I messed up. No texts, no calls. Not even a how are the kids text, and that's when I knew it was serious. Even if we were arguing, Darren always checked in on the kids. I knew he loved them more than anything. So when I didn't hear from him, my heart started racing in a way it hadn't before. I called him again, voicemail. I left a message this time. I tried to sound strong, but my voice cracked halfway through. Hey, I was just calling to see how you're doing. The kids miss you, so yeah, just call me back or whatever. Click. I hated how weak I sounded. I hated how real it was starting to feel. A week later, I got served divorce papers. Right there on my front porch. Handed to me by some random guy in a polo shirt like it was just another Tuesday. I snatched them out of his hand and slammed the door. Unbelievable, I muttered, tearing them open. He's really doing this over a stupid argument. My eyes skimmed over the papers, but I didn't really read them. It didn't feel real. People argue all the time. People say things they don't mean. People get over it. Right? But apparently not Darren. A month went by. I convinced myself it was all for show, a power move to get me to chase him. Classic Darren, he'll cave, until I saw her. I was scrolling Facebook one night, and there she was, tagged in a picture with him. Some girl named Michelle, blonde, skinny. One of those I wake up at 5 a.m. to do yoga types. I clicked on her profile, it was wide open. Rookie mistake, her bio, blessed beyond measure. I rolled my eyes so hard I got dizzy. But then I saw it, a picture of them at a restaurant. He had his arm around her, big smile. Bigger smile than I'd seen from him in years. She had a caption under it too, thankful for this man every day. This man, my chest started burning. I sat up straight, scrolling through every single post. Every tag, every little heart emoji. It was like digging through my own grave. This woman, this Michelle, was living the life I built. She was eating the food I taught him to like. She was reaping the benefits of my hard work. He didn't even wait. He didn't pause. He didn't grieve. He just moved on. I clicked on his page. Scrolled through his posts, nothing. He never even mentioned the divorce, not one post about being free or finding peace. Just silence, but that picture on her page. That picture said everything. I sat there, jaw clenched so tight I could feel it in my temples. My first instinct was to post again, another Facebook status. Something sleek, something petty. It's always the healed ones that forget who helped them heal. But I'm good over here, trust that. I hit post. Watch the likes roll in, it felt good for a second. Feel good validation on demand, just like before. But that feeling didn't last as long this time. By midnight, I deleted it, not because I regretted it, I just didn't want him to see it. That's when I realized something. Darren wasn't going to see it. He wasn't checking for me. He didn't care. Michelle was laughing at something, he said. While I was watching through a screen, the next day, I called my lawyer. I wasn't about to lose quietly if he was going to move on that fast. Then I was going to make it as hard as possible. You want to act happy, Darren? Cool? Let's see how happy you are after I get half. I didn't want him back anymore. I didn't want him at all. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want him to feel it, and if I couldn't have him. I'd make sure his new little blessed beyond measure girlfriend knew exactly what she signed up for. Thank you for listening until the end. Every story holds a piece of someone's truth, and maybe a piece of your own. If this touched you in any way, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories. See you in the next video.